Awesome. Wow. Yeah. More people than I was expecting today. This is great. This is awesome. Yeah. I'll try not to be. How's everybody doing? Great. Yeah. I don't know if there's an official start time or if I just get going. But yeah, I think we're recording, so I'm ready to roll. Before I get started, I do want to just take a quick moment to share a little bit of some small but important piece of Canadian history. Some of you may notice that I'm wearing a poppy. I think I've seen some other people wearing poppies today. In Canada, at least, on November 11th, we call that Remembrance Day. It's a day when we pause to remember those who served and sacrificed in times of war. The red poppy that you'll see on my slides is just is a national symbol of remembrance, inspired by the poppies that grew across Flanders fields here in Belgium after the First World War. And being here today, I thought it was or in the very country that gave rise to that symbol of the poppy, I feel it's especially meaningful to be representing that today. So from one corner of the world to another, I just want to thank you all for allowing me to share this moment and take a moment of remembrance before we jump in. Right, well, this is my presentation. Thank you all for joining me. This is Know Before You Build, designing apps that users love. Now, who am I? I'm just, my name, well, I guess I'll start with my name. My name is Pearson. I am the UX designer at FM Better Forms. I'm from Canada, and I love UX, and I want to teach you all a little bit about how to create better apps or create more meaningful apps. And I just want to give you a little bit more background about myself, and hopefully that'll tie into some of the reasons why I love UX so much, and I'm so into this world. Like I said, I'm the UX designer at FM Better Forms. Many of you may have heard of us. We're from Canada. We're based in Toronto. I think a lot of you have maybe seen us represented at these conferences here and elsewhere across the world. So again, thank you for joining me to maybe hear a little new perspective on some UX principles. First, I want to, talk a little bit about my background, about myself. I am born in Canada, Canadian guy. I love hockey. That's always been my favorite sport. And if only I was more athletic and better at it, maybe I could have made a living. But but that was not my fate. I ended up in tech. But that is still just a huge passion of mine, as well as cooking. This is just one of the many things that I make. Maybe it's not the most appetizing photo, but I was really proud of these pickles that I made. A lot of my friends really enjoyed them. And lastly, I'm a huge fan of puzzles. This is the New York Times games. I'm not sure if any of you have played them. It's just a lot of crosswords, a lot of wordplay. And that is one of my daily, nightly routines, is just playing these puzzles, solving these problems. And I do find that these interests of mine, I didn't realize until later in my life, but I think they really kind of represent a lot about what I have in my personality and why I kind of was drawn to the UX world. And it's all about problem solving, trying to view things in a different way. When I'm playing hockey, I play defense, so I like to view the play happening in front of me. For anybody else who's a big sports fan, I like to see what's happening. I try to understand, where are people going, where are my teammates going. With cooking, I like to understand, why does one ingredient work with the other ones? How can I replace one thing with another and still come to the final product that I enjoy eating? And obviously with puzzles, crosswords, my daily Wordles, or I play a lot of escape rooms at home, where I'm not sure if any of you guys have played them, but you're essentially just trapped in a room with some teammates, and you're trying to escape, solving puzzles, trying to open up, unlock some doors, and it's really fun. I love that element of problem solving, and like I said, I think that's what brought me to UX, because UX is just problem solving. You're trying to solve problems in technology or in interfaces, and I really enjoy that aspect. I find it very fulfilling. And in this industry, having worked at Delft's Engineering, working on FM Better Forms, I've built a lot of apps. And I mean a lot of apps. These are just a selection of some of the many softwares and interfaces that I've designed while working here, and every project is kind of a new adventure. It's a new look into different industries, and I think that is awesome. I think it is amazing that the UX is everywhere that we look. UX is in the digital interfaces that we use. It's in our real life. You have UX in the games that we play. There's UX in the events that we attend. We're all users in some capacity in all these different areas of our life, and I think that's just a really cool element of what I do. Now, the concept of how do I make this thing that I'm putting out into the world, how do I make it easy to interact with, and how do I prevent my users from ripping their hair out? Hopefully not when they're using my products, but that is kind of the main objective that I have in my mind when I'm building anything, is just how do I make this enjoyable or easy to work with, easy to use. And the good thing about UX is that bad UX stands out very easily. You know, good UX often goes unnoticed, which is how we prefer it. I'd rather not anybody comment on the things that I build, because usually that's an indication that things are working pretty smoothly if no one has any strong opinions about it. Unless it's really positive, I'll always take a compliment. But if I'm not hearing anything bad, then that's usually a pretty good sign. I want to show a couple examples from different spectrums, or different ends of the spectrum of bad UX, you could say. One of my favorite examples is what we call a Norman door. Now, a Norman door is coined by Don Norman. He's essentially kind of a grandfather, founder of the concept of user experience. And he coined this term because there's a lot of doors that we might have experienced, I'm sure all of us have experienced, where you don't know if it's a push or a pull. And it's the language of the door that tries to indicate what you're supposed to do with it. If it's got a bar, you would think that's a pull. If it's got like a bar, like a horizontal bar that you can grab and you can pull, or a push bar horizontally, that's usually indicating that you can push it forward. But a lot of these doors, they don't consider how someone's gonna look at it, and they just say, well, it's got a couple hinges and it can move around, so you figure it out. You might have to bump your head into some glass panels a couple times, but eventually you'll figure it out. But it is one of those things that you might notice, you might remember having experienced, and it is a fun phenomenon to try to catch in the real world. And that is one of the simplified or maybe less consequential sides of this UX phenomenon, but it can get pretty significant. I'll give another example. If any of you remember the Hawaii missile crisis from 2018, it was January 13th, 2018, and residents and tourists of Hawaii received this emergency alert on their phones telling them that there is an incoming ballistic missile threat inbound. Seek immediate shelter. This is not a drill. This was on the left here, this is the message that everybody in Hawaii received on their phones, and it specified this is not a drill. And obviously that caused a lot of chaos. It caused a lot of probably traumatic experiences for these people. And it came as a result of a UX mistake, you could call it. That's how I identify it. It was caused by someone who was working, I'm not sure exactly what their position was or what they were trying to do. I think they were supposed to initiate a drill. And on the right side here, you'll see an image of the interface that they had to work with. And maybe if you were working in this position, maybe you should know exactly which button you're supposed to press, you would think. But it's hard to blame that guy or whoever that was when this is what they have to select from. It's not a very clear menu. And for something with such dire consequences, you would think that maybe they would label things a little clearer. So you'll see here, this is what they did click, supposedly. PACOM, CDW, state only. Doesn't really mean much to me, but this is what they were supposed to click. It says drill right in front of it. Might be obvious now, but who knows? Maybe you didn't get a good sleep. Maybe they were just not paying attention. Who knows? But that's a really easy misclick to make, and it caused a huge event that, fortunately for, in hindsight, nothing happened. It was nothing that, there was no missile, nothing exploded, no one got hurt, but I can't even imagine how all of those, you could call them, citizens or tourists of Hawaii. Those are kind of the users who were, I guess they're not the users of this interface, but they all saw this on their phones, and the emotions they must have felt in that moment is indescribable. So this is the other end of the spectrum where, UX can really have a major impact depending on how you look at it. Now, knowing before you build, what's in it for me? Why does it matter to me if I'm not building missile alert systems? I know that's not any of the softwares that we're building here, I don't think. But why does it matter so much? And the answer is, and I think we could all get behind this, is it saves a lot of time and it saves a lot of money to produce proper UX, to take the time to know what you're building before you build it. This diagram is this graph is a visual representation of that principle, where if you're looking at this x-axis, this is the timeline of your product. Starting from the discovery phase, you're learning about what exactly is the problem that you're trying to solve, what ideas are you trying to put out into the world, into development, where you're actually producing things, you're building things, you're developing things, up until the launch point, where you put it out into the public and people actually start using it, or maybe paying for it even. And the farther you get along that path, down that timeline, the harder it is to actually make changes or make meaningful changes, because the longer you wait, the more it'll cost, because the more you've invested, the deeper into this idea you might have gone down this road. At the beginning, you have nearly an infinite amount of possible design alternatives. That's where you want to be able to discover and explore these ideas. You might have one solution, but this other solution might work. You might want to try that out, because our assumptions are not always accurate. Most of the time, they're inaccurate. So you just want to make sure that you find the time at the beginning when it's going to cost you a lot less money and save you a lot of time, so that you're not rebuilding something that you've already spent months developing, and then you realize, oh, no one actually wants to use my thing. No one understands what I'm actually trying to produce here. So you're saving time, you're saving money. I think that is a good reason or a reason why a lot of us can understand why it's so important. Better UX means better user retention, means more revenue, and I think we can all agree that's a pretty good thing for us. Now, how do we actually know before you build? I tried to coin, maybe this will catch on, KBIB. How do you KBIB? You first want to understand the goal of what you're trying to do. And this can come from collaborative design discussions with your team. This is the discovery phase, where you can just throw some things on a whiteboard. These ideas are free, so do as much as you can. Open up the floor to brainstorming for everyone. Everybody who's involved, anybody who's a software developer or who just has some kind of stakeholder role in this product, let's all brainstorm together and figure out how we can create something meaningful and useful. And so you want to start with defining what exactly is the goal of what we're trying to build here, or what are we trying to achieve? What problem are we trying to solve? And I think that by discussing these ideas before discussing specific features, that's where you're going to get a lot of new solutions, and maybe thinking outside of the box, maybe coming up with solutions that you wouldn't have otherwise thought of on your own, but because you're having this collaborative session, you can really get a whole lot more out of this idea phase. And it's really important for the team as a whole to understand why you're building the thing. It's one thing to just say, I'm going to listen to whoever tells me what to build, and I'm just going to build it, and hopefully it works out. But if we can all take the time and the effort to understand why we're actually building this, no matter where you are in that kind of hierarchy of your team, understanding why you're building something can really help understand or come up with new ideas and be really beneficial to the end result. Next, after you've come up with all these ideas, you don't even have to land on one. I would suggest don't land on one, maybe land on a few that you really think could stand out. This is when you want to start wireframing and kind of putting those ideas onto paper or onto your screens, but without investing too much time in getting into the nitty-gritty, the styling. You just want to get these representations of these ideas on paper and kind of visualize how is it actually going to look. So this is where wireframes come into play. These are conversation starters. So you might have an idea and you can explain it, but myself, as a design-forward person, I think in visuals. I need to see how it's actually going to look. You could have a great idea, tell me all about it, and I'm going to say, okay, but how is it going to look in my hand? Because the idea is great, but I need to actually see what am I going to be interacting with if this was a real idea. So these are good conversation starters. They help you visualize the workflows. It might help you understand where maybe there are some gaps in your ideas. And if you're embarrassed by your first draft of a wireframe, you're probably doing it right. Because they're never going to look good. They're not supposed to look good. They're just representations of ideas. And here I just have some great resources to help wireframe. Figma is what I use 99% of my day, every day, and it is my go-to software, and I'm really glad, and it's very encouraging that I hear so much more talk about Figma within these developer conferences because, you know, I went to school with a lot of designers. So, like software designers, we all know what Figma is. But when I started working at Delft's Engineering, working on FM Better Forms, Figma was still not really a common household software. But I'm really seeing it rise among the developer community, and I think that is an amazing thing. It's really helpful. It's super powerful. If you're not using Figma, there are other softwares like Whimsical or Balsamic, and they are also just, if you're only using this for wireframes, they are incredibly efficient, and they do exactly what you need them to do. I want to show an example of one of these wireframes that I've worked on, and showing you kind of like the before and after, how it could look. And this wireframe on the left, this was provided to me by one of our clients, which is a dream for me. When the client can actually give me, represent their idea on paper or on a screen like this and kind of tell me, this is generally how I imagine this could look, because I know my product and this is what I think that it might look like. So here we have a general navigation on the left, you have some tabs on the top, and you got some widgets in the middle there. And you can see it's not a one-to-one comparison between what it was proposed as to what it was built as, but it really does help me as a designer understand what what my client's objectives were, what their goals were, and we ended up creating something that I think, you know, it looks pretty good. It looks a lot better than what the wireframe looks like, but that's the whole point. The wireframe is just a representation of an idea, and I was able to help, that was helpful for me to create something more visually appealing. And when you're wireframing, this isn't necessarily like a strict step-by-step, but this is a really good foundation for how to create these wireframes. You want to determine what device you're designing for. So, you know, if you're working on something that maybe it's an internal software that is only being used in Office, are people really going to be going on their phones at home and using the same software? Maybe not. So you don't have to build a wireframe for the mobile device. Maybe you can just focus on a screen. Maybe the screens that you know you're designing for, everybody has the same size screen, so that kind of helps reduce the amount of work that you might have to think about. Or if it is just a mobile device or a mobile software, you want to be able to determine what device you're designing for. That'll really help flesh out those workflows. And it helps to start with your navigation first. That is one of the most important parts of any software is, can the user understand how to get from point A to point B, from one page to the other? And navigation is also pretty simple, so it's a really good place to start with. And then you want to center your design around the product or the unique selling point of what you're producing. So whether that's a streaming service and you want to really just showcase the titles being broadcast on your system, or like I said, maybe it's a dashboard or a portal, and you just want to show some high-level results of data in your database. That's where you want to start next after your navigation, and then you can kind of get into some They're not necessarily stylistic choices, but laying out where do I want some images to be, where do I want the text to be, other large elements like that, and finally, maybe some buttons, some calls to actions here, and that'll help as an additional navigational element where this is how a user will start a workflow. This is how they add a document. This is how they delete an element here. Those are just some basics to how to create wireframes. Now, next I want to try something new. I want to kind of play a little game, just as a collaborative exercise. I want to start with the wireframe game, and I'm going to show just a few examples of wireframes. I've kind of done it backwards, where I'm starting with an end result and working backwards to create a wireframe of it. So these are wireframes of systems, software, interfaces that I think we're all familiar with. So we'll start with this. I'm going to start with just the navigation. I'm going to go slowly, and I'm just very curious to see, as I add more details into this, I want to see a raise of hands to see if anybody can figure out what exactly I'm representing here. So just starting with this first slide, pretty generic. Anybody have any wild guesses as to what this might be? Probably not. How about now? We have a large image element in the middle, some row down below. Is this resonating with anybody? Anybody getting ideas? Any wild ideas? You don't even have to say it out loud, just curious if anybody has an inclination. Okay, a couple people. I think we're catching on maybe a little bit. And the final one, how about this? Does this ring a bell to anybody? We're looking at big image, maybe a big title, maybe description, a couple buttons. Raise your hands. Anybody? Can you figure it out? Okay, more hands are coming up. There's Netflix. And, you know, that's all you have to do to represent this more complex, vibrant image. You can see it's really just a few blocks. And I think that is a really good representation of how you can take away a lot of those stylistic elements and still show a representation of an idea. In this case, a streaming service. Now, I want to show another one. Again, we're starting with navigation. This one, a little different, and for wireframing purposes, these icons at the top, I just used the same one over and over because it's a representation of this navigation system. So, starting at the top, you have a search on the left, maybe a logo on the very left, some main navigation in the middle, some extra navigation buttons on the right side. Is a little tougher, starting with the navigation. Adding a little bit more to it, we have 2 columns of information. There's a very slight hint that I don't think is being displayed on the projector very efficiently, but at the very top right, there's a birthday cake icon. Just a little hint. Next, how about now? Does anybody think that they know what we're looking at here? I'm seeing a lot less hands. Maybe this is harder than I thought. I'll give a hint. It's a social media. Anybody feeling like they know what we're looking at? Yeah, a couple people, few people. Close. Facebook. Yeah, so we just have, at the top here, if you were to say this is my selling point of my software, I want to show big posts, and I want to show maybe some minor posts. Up at the top, those are the stories that people are posting, kind of the daily updates. Now, this next one, this one actually might be a little harder. This is a bit of a tricky one. I'm starting here. This is kind of a general, some big image, navigation at the top. I'll add one more element. Sorry? Not quite. This is something that I think we are all very familiar with this, but it is a bit of it's a tricky one. It's a bit of I might be pulling a fast one on you. One more element. Looks like a timer of some kind. Some buttons at the bottom. Oh, okay, I think we're catching on. I'm adding some color just to really bring it home, and then there you go. It's the Engage page. So I think we're all familiar with that. I'm pretty impressed that I heard a few rumblings. People got that just on the second image. So that was pretty nice. But yeah, this is just a really good way to show how much information can be presented with just black and white, no styling, and you can really get these ideas across. Next, on how to know before you build, you want to iterate on these ideas. So you have your wireframes, you've created a bunch of pages, maybe simplified, but you want to get some rapid feedback loops so that you can understand if your wireframes are even a good idea. You started with the ideas as a concept, you've represented them in simplified forms, now you want to get some feedback. So this is a way for you to either maybe prototype, you can show it to people, ask them, hey, do you kind of understand what we're trying to describe here? Can you understand the navigation? Do you have any idea of what we're looking at? And while you're asking these questions, as you're testing these ideas, you want to watch and listen and analyze what you're observing from whoever you're testing with. And you know, this method of rapid feedback loops before you get too deep, it's a great way to test your ideas. It's faster than building it and then testing. It's cheaper than building, and it's just that's how you're going to get answers, by asking people, asking the users. That's how you're going to know before you build. And you know, maybe I was rambling a little too long. I want to give a very brief example of how you put all these techniques to use in the real world. This is a Synergy app. This is what we called Synergy Go. And we started off at Delft Engineering. We started working on this product for Hollywood, or for movie productions, film sets, and we had this massive database of every prop, every element, every piece of information that you'd need on a production set. And it was great. Database was full, but we went to New York to talk to some people on a real production set, and we discovered that there was actually a different problem that we hadn't thought about before. And so I want to show, this was me and Charles, the founder of FM Betterforms, and one of our developers. We all went to New York. We met with our liaison. He was an Emmy award-winning art director, very cool. He won an Emmy. He brought it to us. It was very inspiring. And I created this great wireframe on the right here. And you know, it doesn't have to be good. This was literally just us coming together after discussing with some people, coming up with new ideas. Maybe this is a new solution that we haven't thought about. And it's not great, but it's a representation of an idea. And it ended up turning into this prototype that we were able to develop in a matter of just like a couple weeks, where it started with an idea. I was able to put that idea into Figma and create a very brief prototype and show it to those production people, and it was very well received. And that's the quick turnaround that we're looking for, without spending half a year on developing this app that we end up learning nobody wants to use. I was able to talk to them, ask them, is this actually something that you would be interested in? Can you understand the concepts? And it worked out pretty well. Now, as a final exercise, as we wrap up, I want to, there were more people here than I was expecting, which is a good thing, but some of you may have noticed there were some papers on your chairs, I think in the first few rows, and I just wanted to try this wireframe exercise where if you have a piece of paper with you, there's some pens up here, pens back there if you have your own. I encourage you all to try to sketch maybe a brief wireframe of your app homepage or of any specific workflow of the software that you're working on, or maybe just any software that you like, and use this as an opportunity to visualize your page layout. If there are any new features that you're working on or conceptualizing, this is a really good time to add that and see how it can fit into your interface. And then the goal of this would be ideally to share your wireframes with maybe whoever's sitting next to you, maybe your peers, and see if you can understand the core of each other's softwares just based on a wireframe. And if you can't understand, then why not? Maybe there's something there. Maybe there's something we can learn. And the takeaway, the final takeaway, is just to learn to let go of the idea of perfection by rapidly exploring design layouts. This exercise, if anybody is interested in trying it out, this is about visualizing layouts and workflows, not finding perfect solutions. And if anybody's doing that, I'm happy to walk around, talk to you about it, or feel free to come to our desk. I can talk to you about your wireframes, or maybe have a little roast session on your software if you want some insight. I think that'd be really fun, and maybe you get a T-shirt out of it. But in the end, thank you very much for listening. I hope you all learned a little something about wireframes. Thank you very much. Oh yeah, I guess time for questions if anybody has any.
I understood that you talk a lot with the client, but you talk with the developers. Which is your relationship with developers?
With the developers, like my relationship between how do I relay ideas, or typically our process is that I will talk with our clients, usually with some team members in the call as well, so we can all get an understanding, kind of our discovery call, understanding what we're trying to build here. And from there, I'll create wireframes, and I will have them tested by one of our QA people, our quality assurance guy, and he'll make sure that my wireframes are in line with the requests that our client had. And if they all line up, hopefully they do, then I'll go ahead and create mock-ups of those wireframes once they've been approved. I'll also go over the wireframes with our client as well, just to make sure that the client is happy with the general layout of what they're seeing, or of what of their idea. And once the wireframes are approved, I'll create the mock-ups. That's when I'll add the styling. But at that point, it's really nice to have the general layout already done. And I can add colors. I can try to fancify it a little bit. And then from there, from the mock-ups, I'll go back to my developers and maybe have a little more in-depth conversation to them about, this is the layout, but this is how I want things to interact with each other. Here, this button, this is how it's going to look when you hover over it. This menu is a drop-down, all those kinds of things. I'll try to have a really good communication with my developers so we're all on the same page and we all understand what the goal is.
From your Figma design to FileMaker layout, you translate this design only with FileMaker tools, or do you use some plugin of Figma in order to translate this schema information through FileMaker?
Yeah, I actually, being the UX person at my company, I'm not touching FileMaker at all. I've had some experiences learning FileMaker just so that I can kind of have a glimpse into the world of what my developers are working with. But generally, my job starts and ends with Figma. That's my main software.
I can give a little feedback, or from my experience working with you guys when we were doing the visionary bar for Engage. I had a prototype built in FMGO, and it was just a mock-up, and then you, Charles, and Hassan took it and did different things with different portions, and it was a design process. And I can see how having a team being able to understand each person's best suits for the task at hand, it really makes the process go much smoother and the end product much better.
Totally, yeah. I mean, we're all trying to leverage what our skills are and to create a good product. And at the very beginning, that's when we can all kind of collaborate together. We're all on kind of an equal footing in terms of generating ideas. But then once you move on from there, that's when you want to get into your more specialized skill sets. And working as a team, it can be quite effective. Awesome. Any more questions? Sure.
You see in a lot of no-code tools nowadays, Adalo, software, Glide, you can also make a prototype of it. Do you advise to use that or not?
No, like I said, I know there's a lot of other softwares, but I've just become very familiar with Figma, and so I really like Figma's prototyping elements to it. So.
Okay, I didn't know that Figma was also for prototyping. So.
Yeah. No, it's really great. I think there was a presentation yesterday from Mark Allen, and he was showing very briefly how simple prototyping can be in Figma. It's really just you take one screen and you can drag a node from one to the other just to say, when you click this, you go to this screen. It's a very simple mechanism in Figma. I really enjoy it. Figma is just, I can't go off enough about it.
Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much again, and I hope you guys all enjoy the rest of Engage.